Hello everyone, this is the flip video for creating standard-driven assessments with SchoolNet. In the video today, I'm going to show you just a couple of things that might help you complete your flipped assignment for full credit for our training that will happen on October the 9th. I'm going to share my screen with you so that you can follow along with me and see what I am seeing. So here on your flipped assignment, and I will include links to all of these things in the email that I send to you, but the Creating Standard-Driven Assessments with SchoolNet training on October the 9th is you're asked to do 5 things before you come to the training for this particular digital learning competency training. First, I'm going to ask you to review your North Carolina Standard Course of Study documents. ELA and math teachers have new standards this year, but all teachers should review their standards at the beginning of the year to ensure that your information is current and up to date. I'm also going to ask you to look at your current curriculum unit. In this case, I want you to be looking at Wit and Wisdom if you're ELA, Eureka Math if you are looking at your math information, or if you are following a different curriculum unit for science or social studies, I'd ask that you look over that information before you come. Also, number 2, I want you to use the above documents. So use those standard course of study documents along with the state test specifications documents to choose a standard cluster and one anchor standard that you will use to create your student assessment in SchoolNet. Again, I've included the links here. So you've got ELA and math. Down at the bottom of this document, I've included some other test specification documents. So high school math, if you're an NCFE teacher or a science teacher, you can click on these links down here to get to your test specification documents. Number 3, I'm going to ask you to use the Academic Achievement Standards document. This is a document that I created that you can use to determine a target goal for your students. I want you to think what is an appropriate learning goal for students at each academic level. And when I say each academic level, I'm talking about our final performance grade levels, so level 1 through 5. 4, you're going to be asked to decide what type of assessment you will create when you come to the training. So are you going to create a formative or a summative assessment? Of course, if you are working on a summative assessment, you are asking students to complete an assessment after they have been taught the information and after they have been through a unit of learning. If you're doing a formative assessment, you are testing to see what students know prior to their learning. And then 5, I'm asking you to complete the Google form that you see linked here. And again, I'll include that link in the video to receive CEU credit for doing this flipped portion of your assignment. So the part of this that I believe might be a little confusing unless we go through it is this using the Academic Achievement Standards document to determine a target goal for your student. So I'm going to take you to a screen for just a second to look at what I mean by that. So in our academic achievement chart, and I'll look at it in just a second, but that chart is going to include both prediction numbers and performance level ranges, and then I want you to consider what your standard choice will be for this particular assessment, and you're going to use those 3 things to come up with an individual student goal. So in the slide I've got here 2 examples. So Joey is a 6th grade student, and Joey's EVOS prediction is in the 58th percentile. Sarah is a 4th grade student. Her prediction is in the 32nd percentile. So we want to determine what a SMART goal for Joey and Sarah might be in order for you to know as their teacher whether they're hitting those standards or not. So let me take you to, so here if you click on the Academic Standards document, it will bring you to this document. And on this document, you've got ELA, math, and science standards, and when it loads, you'll see them down here at the bottom of the page. Each of the tabs you can click for the different standards document. But the parts that we want to look at today are, number one, the level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ranges, and you'll see that that kind of stays put and drags along for you to scroll through. And then the next two things I want you to look at are their percentile ranges for each level, and then their percentage correct ranges for each level as well. So in this document, what we're basically saying is that if a student is predicted in EVOS, and this is your approximate percentile based on EVOS, if a student is predicted to be between 23 and the 40th percentile, then that student should be performing between 59 and 60% or better on each of our summative assessments. Now, formative assessment is going to be different. So you're going to see how far away from this range they are if they're in a formative assessment. But after having learned the material, you want to compare the student's level, their predicted level, to where they're actually performing. So for example, let's say that I have a student who is predicted at a level 4, and this is a big range, so from 56 to 92%. So I'm really looking for students to be anywhere between the 73 and 93% range for their achievement if they're a level 4 student. If I really want to ensure that my students are meeting or exceeding growth, I want them to be based on their range at the high range of their percentage correct on any assessment that I give them. Now, this is based on our state tests, but you can adapt this to any of your tests that you give as well for just a basic percent range. So if I'm testing a student and the student is predicted a level 2 and that student is scoring 50%, we may feel confident that that student is approaching their predicted range. Whereas if they're scoring significantly lower or significantly above that level, you could begin to set your SMART goals based on where that student is actually performing rather than where they're predicted to perform. So as you look at your flip work for your training before you come to the actual PD session on October 9th, I want you to think about, what is an appropriate learning goal for students at each academic level. When you start to build these assessments and when you start to make goals for your students, you're going to want to consider where that student is in the range, because it's not always a failure for a student to only score maybe 60 or 70% on an assessment. If that student is a level 2 student, or if that student is a level 3 student, they very well may be performing at their target level. So it would be helpful to know where that student's target level is before you begin setting up expectations for a student, or before a student begins to feel like they're failing on a particular assessment. So please take a moment to look at those documents and to answer the questions in the Google form before you come to the training. And I look forward to seeing you all on October 9th at Murphy Elementary School from 3:30 to 5:30. Thanks. See you soon.